Alrighty then. Hello everyone. Welcome to the New American Dream radio show. Streaming, not quite streaming live on Revolution Radio. Some technical difficulties tonight, but I thought I'd go ahead and put this show together, and we'll post it later on. So here we are. We have a new American dream, not of new homes and toasters and microwaves, but of becoming the type of country we always thought we were. A country where people help each other. People work with each other to do things they couldn't do by themselves. People love each other. That's our new American dream. Well, our first guest of the evening is Rex Butters. And normally Rex appears live, but he had something else he had to do, so he was kind enough to let me pre-record. And here we go, Rex Butters. So, hey, Rex.
What's up?
Well, I've been doing all this crazy pre-recording stuff, and I'm glad that I get to use you as a guinea pig as an additional person because we've got new techniques, and I may not do them all right, but hopefully this will go okay. So
I couldn't be more flattered.
All right. The sacrificial lamb or something, but
How's it been in Florida?
Well, it's hot. It's been getting pretty hot. Yeah. Just the last 2 or 3 days, it's started getting really hot. I went to an interesting thing this morning. My church has a new building for the school. It's a new science building, and it was finally dedicated this morning, so that was fun. There's also an outdoor chapel that's right next to it,
Wow.
and it's right on the river, so it's really nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was. I mean, there was a county commissioner and a Fort Lauderdale commissioner and 2 Oakland Park commissioners, the bishop, a big deal, man.
Were they giving you a medal?
No, I was just watching.
Oh. That sounds like a nice day.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
And here we're just coming out of a cold, rainy period, and now it's very hot. It's going to be hot for the foreseeable future. It's got that summer kind of feel. So I thought I'd throw a couple of summer kind of feel things at you.
Okay.
This is from back in the Venice days. How I miss living in Venice. And this is called Ibrahim and his band.
Ooh.
I sit on the smooth tile face of Abbot Kinney. Ibrahim's band slams sticky, beat deep thoughts, changes brains and entertains, maneuvers a boardwalk peace tank. Splatter, paint, peace sign amplifiers line the asphalt. Drive the beat into the feet of walkers momentarily given to conform to the rhythm. Ibrahim, shaman, sermonizing on the mic. Bass riff inches along. Drummers catch and sweeten the beat. YouTube hopefuls dance for $1. Asphalt boardwalkers adjust their gaits to the Afro-Venice groove ambulation rhythm. White marine layer puffs roll slowly. Warm sun, cool breeze. Gulls slide, veering between gangly, unmanicured, slow-swaying palm trees. 3 pelicans fly over too high to be noticed, by walking ground watchers. Ibrahim and his band spin it all into smoldering riff, hotter than the sun, but still part of it. This perfect SoCal day plays Ibrahim and his band, revealing the sound of life.
What a cool poem. Wow.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
Thanks.
I love that. Yeah.
Oh, it was a nice day, a summery kind of day. But then what would you do on summery kind of nights? Did you ever go to the drive-in theater?
Oh, yeah.
You still have drive-ins out in Florida?
I think there's still one or two that are in existence. Yeah. I don't know. They pretty much died out.
Yeah. This was one trip to the drive-in a few years back. Whoa, that took over the screen. And it's called Take Me With You, Godfather. 1965. Barely alive. See the Tammy Show at the El Monte Drive-In. Marvin, Smokey, Jan and Dean, Chuck Berry, Beach Boys, Billy J, The Supremes.
Wow.
All great. All brushed aside by James Brown's one-legged power glide across the stage into out of sight. Pegged pants panic. Famous flames flare furiously. 10,000 megawatt grin, blazing ancestral light. Primal plasticine pompadour, Jolton jellied ankle dance, checked sport coat and double-breasted vest, solid color pants. Prisoner of love, please, please, please. Danny Ray with the cape, James repeatedly falling hard on his knees, begging his love, his face broken by misery, a man driven insane by pain. Then it's time to get aboard the night train. People around me shriek, whistle, and cheer in their cars. Electricity sparks off James like the night sky's stars. Hyperkinetic dance machine moves. The band roars out light speed grooves, then stops. Night, 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 he screams. Band slams back into ecstatic turbo gear as the jerk, boogaloo, mashed potatoes, skate, camel walk too, possess the Babalau along with Shango and Oshun. James slides us up the Nile to the moon, our shared origins binding our future as people spill out their vehicles, beating their hoods and roofs, howling, honking, flashing car lights, a riot response on rolling asphalt between orderly speaker poles. James Brown, James Brown, James Brown dropped down quick splits, up last bows, and he's gone.
Wow. But I could see everything. Yeah, as you read. Yeah. Wow.
Did you ever see that?
Did
you ever see that?
I've seen James Brown. I don't think that must have been quite. The one you're talking about must have been a great performance.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
Called The Tammy Show.
Okay.
And Tammy stood for Teenage Music International.
Huh.
And it was going to be like an annual thing, and it never got together. But they kind of introduced everybody to the Rolling Stones because they were on there too. And there was apparently a kind of argument about who was going to go on last. because the Stones wanted to do it, and James Brown said, "Oh no, no. No English guys are coming over here and taking my stage." So it ended up that the Stones were the last show. And so James just absolutely burns it down and leaves them with nothing. He is so on fire.
Wow.
And it's you can probably see it on YouTube.
Huh.
But he just goes nuts. It's beautiful.
Well,
great show. And of course, taking it to drive-in, it was so I've never in any other really movie or drive-in experience did I ever see that where people just went nuts and got out of their cars and were just banging.
I've never seen that. Wow.
He just poured it on. It's a great performance. You really should look it up.
I will do that, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you here's a kind of an oldie. This is called Bottom Feeder. Millions and millions of dollars change hands every day. Today, these hands, people who live here on windy, sandy cliffs, warm wind tickled ice plant, and spring flowers wave back, while the ocean patiently claws away, undermines fragile hillside slide. Monday afternoon, beach deserted, homes empty, their occupants labor, wasting the day to pay the mortgage. I steal their view today through this chaos of light. I see Australia on the horizon from the Encinitas coast. Broke, rent late, laughed at, rejected, spurned, I eat lunch with the sun. My heart, a sharp-eyed, low-flying gull. Wings spread, speed, stillness, hunger.
Wow. Yeah.
How are we doing for time?
Probably could use one more.
You've probably noticed a lot of changing things in the country these past couple of years.
You think?
Yeah. And one of the things that's so hard to watch are people who are jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak, are going along with what's going on because they think it's going to land them something somewhere. And so I have a name for people like that. And I call them a status quo ho.
Nice.
You're a status quo ho, a mental mediocrity, happy to live without curiosity, white privileged idiocracy condoning atrocity, smug in your stupidity, mistake your first draft Seinfeld obvious observations for creativity, protecting your good German servility, grateful for the hateful, discredited Fox News views that inform you, without sympathy or a brain, happy to be a link in your master's chain of oppression, blissfully free of depth or perspective, apologist for the fascist. You'd be kinder without the blinders. Living is easy with eyes closed for status quo hoes. With no original thoughts, you display glaring lies you've been taught. Dead set, dedicated to dumbness, complacent, unquestioning coward. Leave it to beaver lulled to sleep for life. Dopey grin a window into your empty head. happy to be led. Status quo ho. Sure, he doesn't need what he doesn't know. Proudly competing for most fooled, you've tooled yourself into a mainstream media bootlicker. To you, common sense means being dense. Waste of paper, waste of space. You feel good with your possession in place, worshiping a god with your color face. Laying down for the master faster, authoritarian apologist, spineless conformist. Suck up to your leaders, your self-esteem feeders. Your words are a waste. Keep folks in their place. Empathy and compassion are for you out of fashion. Status quo ho. What do you write for? To shore up the right and keep it white? Pro-authoritarian declarations? Fact devastations? Corporate defender, reality bender? Human pretender? We don't need another screed defending our suppression. Ooze hate and disdain through a contemptuous, oily expression. Put down your pen, shut down your app. We'll be free, you stay trapped. Unwilling, unable to grow, forever frozen on your slave's brain plateau. Status quo ho.
Whoa, very nice.
Thank you.
Status quo ho. Yeah, that's got quite a ring to it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you so much for pre-recording. Since you aren't able to be here live, and I look forward to the poetry show next week. So,
Uh-oh.
God. Get some more stuff ready to share.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again. Much
Thanks, Chuck. Always a pleasure.
All right. See ya. Well, hello, everyone. That was a fun visit with Rex Butters, and wow, what amazing poems. Status quo ho. Okay. Well, our next guest of the evening is Frank Cordaro, and I recorded my conversation with Frank earlier, and I'm going to play that right now.
Voice, are we in the new situation? You got it down, and we're rolling.
Hopefully, we're going to find out that it's supposed to be recording two different ways right now, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. So, never a dull moment here at the Des Moines Catholic Worker. Now the drama moves to the yard where we serve our folks. We've had varying degrees of policies. One from being very, very strict, saying no one can be in the yard when we're closed. And when you're in the yard, you got to be nice. I mean, that's just it. So, however, in recent times, in a sense of people need a place to hang out, we've been more lax. All we've been asking people is to be nice. And, that's inevitably doesn't work well. I just, over the years, I'm going like, when you offer hospitality, the presumption is you have some kind of relationship with the people who are being served and using your facility as a guest and yourself as a host. And when they're unattended and left to their own wiles, the culture of the street they come from just goes right into the yard, and it goes crazy. And this time, the main character that seems to get in the midst, but there are a number of them, really are. And let me just say that generally speaking, the yard itself has been a haven for mentally ill people.
Hmm.
You know, the ones who walk 8 feet one way, turn around the other feet, they're having a conversation, and
Right.
yeah, it's the issue is the indoor-outdoor voices, that sort of thing, but they're not very dangerous. However, there is hot temperaments, anger management stuff, especially when you get people of all races and creeds and poverty and on the street. It's generally not a pretty picture unless they really are nice, and it really does come off very nicely.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't always. However, when you don't attend something, it gets out of hand. And while we go into summer, this is always a cycle. The yard gets crazier, yelling, manic, more dry, just crazy. That's all it is. And the guy who's the lead crazy guy is a blind guy. Who it really doesn't matter if the initial thing is, you done me wrong. The blind guy can say that. But the way he defends himself is to yell at the top of his lungs and accuse everyone's of being every ugly, vile thing you can think of. So it's you gotta well, like we just cleared the yard earlier because he was going crazy. The reason is, as we continue to explore this thing about the fire station, there's a movement afoot in the neighborhood to blame us for the guests that we serve, as if we're bringing them into the scene when there's so many other reasons why our guests are here, and it's not us.
Right. Yeah.
Even though we serve them. So there was a tour that the neighborhood association was giving right up our block. We didn't even know it. The mayor came, and there was a blow up with our guest on the street. And Julie was there and was able to help mitigate the situation. But we're in a situation where we looks like we got to go right back to our if we can't offer any kind of supervision, and we're not offering hospitality, and then ask people not to show up until we're open, which would be kind of a bummer. But that's the way we used to play it, because we couldn't have any control over the people who are in the yard, and it looks like that's what's going on. I hate doing that. It's a matter of having not enough people to offer the hospitality that's needed.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
So it's so we're touching that sort of thing, and I'm continually. We got some major trust issues that got to happen. Transferring the trust into a viable tool and certified with trustees and all. So that is going to be, and I'm again, and I think I've spoken of this last week about the and getting the checkbook and everything moved on. I'm doing everything I can to move my all the legacy stuff that it depends on me. Get it out of my being in charge anymore. That's the operative thing. And we had a great visit with Carla Dawson. She came and visited Eddie. Carla is one of the Des Moines Catholic workers who live at the New York Catholic Worker, along with Joanne Kennedy, who's the editor of the New York paper, and Carmen Trotta, who's going to be visiting us next week. Carmen is a graduate from Grinnell, played football there, and discovered us and came and lived a couple years. And then moved back to his beloved hometown of New York City and joined the New York City Catholic Workers. Been there for almost 40 years. He's getting an award. He was in that Plowshares action, that the recent one a couple of years ago, where Liz McAllister got arrested along with Father Kelly and 5 Catholic workers, or 6 Catholic workers, something like that. A great crew. So Carmen's coming back to visit because he's getting an award from Grinnell for his work at the Catholic Worker, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
So I'll get to see him. He'll be around next week. I'll speak more about Carmen because I'll have more to say. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Jess calls. She's in good shape.
Good.
Just starting to get her feet again to after being locked up in the the punishment tank,
Right.
lockdown.
Yeah.
So she's I'm trying to. They've been they've been telling her that that she could be cut loose as soon as October of this year. We're just holding our. We're trying not to get our anticipation too high on that,
because you don't know if it's
you got to see that bullshit
exactly. It
close
might
up
be a game they're
before you.
playing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What do you mean it might be? It is a game. It always is a game. So there's a game here, a gamesmanship. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's going on there. And the Honduran family, Bob had a great celebration. Extraordinary. Yeah, my talk for 9 minutes was really good. I was very comfortable with it afterwards.
Good.
I talked to people and I felt like I did a good job. I did my brother a justice, so that's good too. Also, they're going to be bringing his ashes to El Salvador, and I think I may. I'm going to sign up to say I'd like to go and be there when they do the ceremonies. Burying his ashes in some kind of a parish yard, a churchyard in El Salvador, to be remembered as part of their saints, which is great.
Yeah.
So want to be part of that, and also try to tie in my Honduran trip. So I got some kind of planning of trips and stuff like that. It's got to work out. So I'll keep doing that. And personally, I'm working through a lot of grief about dying. Right now I got a classmate, Dave Pulatano. I've known him since kindergarten, first grade, second grade. I mean that far back, high school, and he's in his last days. Wonderful man. He married a woman, and they both were in their 30s. She had been married before and had a child. David not, but she was had MS, and he spent the better part of the 30 years being like her support person. However, his illness overtook hers at the moment because he's on death's door, and she needs an attendant all the time. Oh, it's just really sad to see all this stuff, but these people have been loving each other for years. He's been taking care of her.
Wow.
Really a noble, heroic kind of thing.
Indeed.
It's great. So I'm grateful to be part of it. But he's very kind. He can, I'm watching people die in lots of different ways. And Norman, and Reverend Bob, my friend Petey,
really
thing, and it's happening all over the place. Death surrounds me as I. Well, then I guess that's what happens when you're 74.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's not nice. I don't know.
I love this. I used to say, growing old ain't for sissies, that Betty Davis thing.
Right.
But now I say, growing old has made me a sissy. Because I will cry at a moment's notice. My feelings, my heart, my sympathies are so transparent.
Yeah.
I bleed easy. I'm not just thin-skinned for blood. I am thin-hearted for blood too. Because I just can't separate myself from the humanity. And I don't have to leave my house. Mamma mia. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Frank. Very, very good. And
I appreciate these weekly confessional moments. Three Hail Fathers, three Hail Marys.
There you go.
Routine. Make a good act of contrition, Frank. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Father Chuck.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye. Good night. Bye-bye.
Our next guest of the evening is Philip Farruggio, and I'm going to bring Philip in right about now. Philip will be joining us from Port Orange, Florida, and he's an interesting columnist, very prolific columnist. I run a website for Philip. It's theempirestupid.com. Check it out. You can find most of his writings and some great interviews, which are available also on Spreaker. Here he is, Philip Farruggio.
Hello.
Philip.
I thought you were calling me at 8:38.
I've had a little bit of a confusion tonight, and
Okay.
yeah, it's been a crazy night.
It's been a crazy day.
Yeah, a crazy day. We're not actually even. If I didn't call you now, I would have been calling you at about a quarter of, and I thought that was too late. So I decided to go ahead and call you, and I'm going to have to patch stuff together later and upload anyway, because for some reason the station is offline. So
you want me to? So you want to tape me now? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we're proceeding with. I'm proceeding as if the show were live, and
Okay.
I'll
All right.
put it up there later.
I'm going to read my column. Okay, I'm going to read my column.
Please do.
Okay. Yeah, it's quick. It's not a big one. It's the one that you were supposed to put up. But anyway, hopefully you'll put it up.
I heard that.
Hopefully you'll put it up tonight. So I can send it out to everybody.
I haven't been able to find a picture I liked yet, but I'm working on
it's of her. Yeah, Christy Nome. All right, it's called Christy No with a K-N-O-W. Christy No. We have someone running what they call Homeland Security, or should I say Fatherland Security, who actually looks and acts like her counterparts from Germany circa 1940. This former governor of South Dakota, with a population about the same as my Florida county, 900,000 plus, made her bones as a macho woman by killing a goat and a mean dog. She was red, white, and red MAGA. So Donald put her in charge of things guarding our 50 states from the invaders. You know, those brown-skinned rapists and fentanyl mules. Meanwhile, who checks the thousands of containers at our ports each day, who are mostly gang members with tattoos on their fingers. Like the ones Donald decided to fool us with, even though the reporter told him it was BS. Anyway, Christy loves to wear body armor and carry an assault rifle while she poses in front of Salvatorian cells filled with illegals. She is a MAGA man's dream, folks. So wasn't it great when yesterday Christie sat at a Senate hearing to share her knowledge? Here she has been running the ICE manhunts for illegals and having them shipped like cattle out of the country right smack dab into the most horrific prison in El Salvador. All those gang members, maybe 10% of the group, that weeks before were picking fruits and vegetables, digging ditches, hammering on southern roofs of 100 degrees, washing restaurant dishes, cutting grass, or doing other day labor jobs, were now safely tucked away. Great job, Christy. So she sat there and could not give a senator the correct definition of habeas corpus, which is, by the way, a writ requiring a person under arrest to be brought before a judge or into court, especially to secure the person's release unless lawful grounds are shown for their detention. Christie answered the senator that the definition of habeas corpus was, quote, a constitutional right that allows the president to remove people from our country. Well, perhaps the wrong people are being removed from our country, huh, Christy and Donald? Thank you. I thought that was very funny. I thought that was very funny, very funny.
It's hard to believe anybody doesn't know the meaning of habeas corpus. I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, at least someone who's in charge of the whole homeland, they should know what habeas corpus is. They're sending all these people, they're shipping them out with bags over their heads, to hide, sending them and shaving their heads and all that stuff, and sending them.
Yeah, I know.
Sending them south of the border, down El Salvador way. But it's really sad, Sean. I know.
It is.
So, it's sad. It's sad that this woman is in charge. She's in charge. I mean, come on. This is
if you think about her answer, basically, what they're doing is a complete violation of habeas corpus, and what she's saying is, I don't know, that she flipped it upside down.
You're right. Yeah, but the point is that this guy Trump, the people that he has chosen, it's a comedy, Chuck. It's a comedy. It has to be. It's got to be a Mad Magazine comedy piece. I mean, look at these people: Lee Zeldin, EPA, all of them. They're totally unqualified. They're all rich people. I mean, maybe she's not super rich, but most of these guys and women are pretty rich. But I mean, look at these people. They're not qualified to have these positions, and they're the people that are running our. It's terrible. I mean, and this woman Noam is like on top of the list. I mean, with that stupidity, with the armor, wearing the body armor, and with their rifle, taking pictures, posing. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, I don't think the Nazis even did this. I don't think the Nazis. I mean, the Nazis probably took themselves a little more seriously, right? They took themselves a little more seriously. I mean, this is unbelievable, Chuck. And now cutting the funding for Medicaid, and last night, if anybody doesn't know it by now, I'm sure once this show is airing, more people should realize what they did last night. They're just going to cut away at our safety net. I don't know. Who is supporting these people?
Yeah.
Are his people? Are his MAGA people still going to support him?
Yes, they are. And I make a point of keeping my connections to friends, all sorts of political spectrum, and I've still been seeing amazing amount of support for what's going on, and they're getting rid of all the crap. They're
well, yeah, that's what they're being told. They're being told that but I don't understand why the Democrats don't make a big issue of this in front of because they have the Democrats have access to being interviewed on like national TV. They should be explaining to the public. The guy wants to cut the taxes for the rich people, for super rich people. You cut the taxes, you lose the revenue. So in order to balance it out, he's got to cut the spending to balance out the fact that he's going to lose the revenue when he gives all these tax breaks. That's what it's all about, That's what it's all about. So, I mean, and Chuck, let me say this. I said this on your show, and I've written about it, as you know. Okay, you cut the Medicaid. You cut the Medicaid. All of these MAGA people that are older than me, that are in their 70s or 80s, a lot of these people are going to have to go into assisted living or to a nursing home, and there's not going to be enough Medicaid funding to help them. So what are they going to do?
I don't know.
It's
It's we'll
20,000 a month to go into assisted living. 20,000 a month.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
All right. So what are they going to do? I mean, and how about the ones? How about the ones who are getting ill?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
How about the ones? How about the ones that are not on Medicare? They're under 65. They're under 65, and they're MAGA people, and they have problems with their health, and maybe whatever insurance they have is not good enough, and they got to go into a hospital. They got to have an operation. What's going to happen? They're going to be charged for it. They don't have the money.
Probably
for a $10,000 operation.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
it's
this
wild.
is the reality.
The medical system in this country is a total mess anyway.
It's a total mess. But at least if you have some sort of coverage, it's better than not, right? I'm just telling you. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
You know, 63% of people that are on Medicaid are working.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. 63% are working. You know, and then you have another percentage who have mental or physical disabilities, right?
Sure.
Okay. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, there aren't too many people that are faking it to be on Medicaid.
No,
There's
I
always
don't think
people.
anybody's faking it. That's a bunch of bull. If they spent less money worrying about who might be faking it and more money actually helping people, they'd save a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's
the whole
really
faking thing. Yeah. That's made up. It's a sham.
Yeah, well, just about every. How about when he shows a picture of the guy in El Salvador, his fingers, his hand, and he shows the tattoo, and then the reporter says to him, "But that's been proven. That's a doctored photo. That was a doctored photo." And he doesn't want to answer. Oh, I know. I mean, the President of the United States is showing a picture. Come on, it's a joke. It's a joke. It really is. They're lying. They lie about everything, Chuck.
Well, yeah, we know that.
Well, it's sad because there's people that still support these people.
Yeah.
You know, and now what they're doing is really shrewd with the tips. In their plan.
Have you seen all the stuff? Yeah, they're trying to say that Biden's sickness was covered up, all that kind of stuff.
It's crazy. They're
saying that the sickness suddenly showing up. Either it was covered up during the during the presidency for many years, or else it's fake, so that he won't have to testify and things.
They're trying to. Aren't they talking about they want to indict his wife? They want to have her arrested.
Yeah, something. It's wild.
It's
you can't make this
more
stuff
than wild. As you know, Hitler. People who study, like I do, study the World War II and study the whole. Hitler he used the big lie all the time, and he said,
yeah.
He said the bigger the lie, the more they'll believe you.
Really? Yeah.
The bigger the lie, the more they'll. And that's what this. I mean, they are copying the whole playbook from the Germans, from the Nazi Party. I'm telling you, I'm watching a documentary that was made in 1977 on Hitler, his whole career, and you could see all the things that are being done now. That's what the Germans did, what the Nazis did. All the mechanisms they used. I mean, now what I'm afraid is going to happen, Chuck. Because, I mean, the Republicans must be sitting in a room saying, if when we have to run for re-election in the House of Representatives at 26, I mean, a lot of us are going to get killed here. We're going to lose. I mean, the people are going to get really pissed off at all that we're doing. So, I mean, there has to be a plan, a real nefarious plan to do something about that election, or to restrict people from voting. Doing horrible little things that you can do, to legally restrict people from being able to vote, like they did with the felons. Remember the felons in 2000 with Bush in Florida when Catherine Harris and them, they all of a sudden they were accusing a lot of people of being felons. They wouldn't let them register to vote. And it turns out they weren't felons. That was just a lie. Yeah, that was a big scam that happened in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It's this. I'm going to a protest over here where I live on Saturday. There's going to be another one.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to be out. Yeah, we're going to stand on the street corners and just hold our signs and let the public know that this is not good.
Mm-hmm.
This is not good what these people are doing. I mean, cutting Medicaid. I mean, the Medicaid is like, it's not even that good. You know what I'm saying, Chuck?
I know.
Medicaid is not even that good.
But it's a lifeline for so many people.
My mother in the nursing home like 20 years ago, she cracked her denture. She was on Medicaid.
Yeah.
She cracked the denture. We could not find a cosmetic dentistry that would take Medicaid. And we couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't. So she stayed with the cracked denture. We couldn't find a cosmetic dentist in the region here that would take Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're cutting like the worst thing that they can cut. I mean, I don't know, Chuck. It's just, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So they're going to cut Medicaid, right? Here's what's going to happen. People are going to walk into a hospital emergency room, and they're going to be treated, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the Hippocratic oath,
Right. Well,
you have to serve, right? So what's going to happen? They're going to go in.
But they check the insurance first.
No, I'm saying when someone comes in an emergency, I mean, they're going to take them in or her in. They have to.
Mostly.
It's an emergency. Yeah, it's an emergency. So the person's going to be treated, and who's going to pay for it? The taxpayer. Eventually, the taxpayer is going to pay for it, right? All right, so that's what's going to happen. You're going to get low-income people who got thrown, they couldn't get the Medicaid. Somebody gets really sick, and where are they going to go? They're going to go to an emergency room, right? What'll probably happen, the urgent care places won't even take them. The urgent care is going to tell them to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Right? The urgent care is going to say, "I'm sorry, you have to go to the hospital for that. We can't tell you." And everyone's going to go to the hospital, to the emergency room. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it could be. I know that the the trend with the things, the way they are right now, has been towards places that do everything. Like the one that I go to, Chen Medical Center. It's specially targeted for seniors, and they have several doctors on staff at each of several locations, and most of the locations have labs. They have X-rays. They have all the assorted things right there on the premises, and it's almost like a miniature hospital. And this, I've noticed this is kind of a trend that's going on in the.
Yeah, but this place that you're talking about, is this owned by private equity? Is it a private? Is it private?
Yeah.
I mean, this is for profit.
Yeah, I'm sure it's for profit, but I mean,
All right. So what's going to happen?
They're not getting much of a profit. They're not getting any profit off the people, because basically they, whatever the insurance pays is what they get.
Yeah, and what happens if somebody doesn't have any insurance, and they can't get on Medicaid because it was cut? So they're going to go into this place.
I don't know. I'm sure that a lot of the people at these places, may not be able to pay. And I don't know. Will they end up?
Well, yeah. If this is a private equity owned and it's for profit, I mean, I wonder what happens if there's an emergency and somebody walks in. Are they going to treat them, or are they going to tell them to go to the hospital, to the emergency room? That's a question.
I think in general, if it's an emergency, they would tell people to go to the emergency room anyway. But
all right, that's what's going to happen. It's not. But the point that we're making to each other is this is not the way it should be, right?
Right.
Shouldn't be this way. All right.
Sure.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. And as we both know, Medicaid is not the greatest, but there are a lot of people. That's all they have. That's all they have is the Medicaid.
Yes.
And you're going to cut the funding. What's going to happen to these people? They're going to go into an emergency room. They're going to have to treat them, and then the taxpayers are going to pay for it anyway. That's what happens. That's like what happens with the undocumented. The what?
That's usually the way it ends up. The taxpayers pay anyway.
Well, that's what the right wing has been selling everybody for years about the undocumented. They're saying, somebody comes here illegally and they get sick, they go into the because they don't have any insurance. They go to the emergency room, and then we had to pay for it. We, mean the taxpayer.
Right.
So those same right wing people who think that's horrible, right? That the taxpayer, now they're going to support a political party that's going to do the same thing, basically. Right? Going to do the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Instead of being undocumented, you're going to be a regular American citizen.
Yeah.
So, it's a cruel. It's cruel. That's why I wrote that piece, When Evil Rules.
Yeah.
Because that's what we have in this country. We have a group of people in power that, in my opinion, are evil. And it's sad. And I mean, the other party was never any bargain. We know that.
Yeah.
But this is unbelievable. I mean, this is like I don't know, Chuck. This is like a gang. This is crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is Chicago, 1920s. I mean, I know. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I mean, arresting judges and not listening to when a judge rules on something. They just don't want to do it. They don't. What is this? This is crazy. And now he takes a plane, a gift from a jet, from the Qatar people. By the way, Pam Bondi, I just found out, the Attorney General, before she was working for the state of Florida, she was representing Qatar.
Oh yeah.
She did legal work for Qatar. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that great? Oh, what a world! Isn't it great? That reminds me of just to make things even here. Reminds me of Eric Holder. You remember Eric Holder? He was the Attorney General under Clinton.
Yes.
Eric Holder.
Yeah.
You know what he did? You know what he did after Clinton's term was up? When after the election and he was no longer no longer attorney. You know what he did? He went into private practice. He went back into private practice. You know who he was working for? He was working for a law firm. He's working for a law firm that defended Wall Street firms.
Huh.
Yeah. He was working to defend Wall Street banks and firms. that's the private practice that he went into after being the Attorney General, defending the very people that he was probably had served with all kinds of suits when he was the Attorney General. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that's isn't that horrible? And
Yes.
as a matter of fact, Billy Townsend back in the 90s, Billy from Louisiana, congressman, Republican. Yeah, he was on the committee or something to do with with the drug, with the pharmaceuticals. He was a congressman. So where does he go after his time in the Congress is over? He gets a job as a lobbyist for Big Pharma.
Well, that sounds like a natural progression, doesn't it?
He got a job as a lobbyist for Big Pharma.
That's crazy.
All right. Anyway, it's time to go, right? Time to
go. We're
go.
good. Thank you so much, Philip.
All right.
Always.
I'll talk to you next week.
Take
care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. Well, that's always interesting to talk to Phil Farruggio. At this point, we normally would be having our station break, and I'm going to just remind you all that Revolution Radio is a listener-supported network. The New American Dream Radio Show is very fortunate to be on Revolution Radio, and this minor technical issues this week notwithstanding, they do a great job keeping two streams of shows going pretty much 24/7. And if you go to revolution.radio, you can find a number of different ways to support the station. And don't forget to tell them you heard about them on the New American Dream Radio Show. All right, folks. Welcome back to the New American Dream Radio Show. And we're streaming almost live on Revolution Radio. Tonight we're having trouble connecting to the station, but we're doing this show for the archives. And speaking of archives, I'm going to play something from our archives, something almost 10 years ago. This was a fascinating piece, and I'm going to play the intro to it as well as the actual segment. So you're going to hear my original co-host, Mike Pellicek, introduce.
Our next guest is Michael Annis. Michael Annis is a poet and publisher. He is the executive editor of Howling Dog Press. He comes to us each month from Denver, Colorado. And Chuck is getting Michael on the line right about now.
Hello.
Well, hello, Michael. It's Chuck and Mike and the New American Dream Radio Show, and you're on the air.
Well, I got to watch. This is a little bit longer than normal. So, Great New World Order, Part 12, The Divine Proving Ground. Against the tyrannical, premeditated, methodical censorship by their forefathers, the rage welled up in the chromosomes of the great-great-great-grandchildren. It was the rampant deprivations of disinheritance they engendered in the genesis of renewing and remaking the place they occupied. Holier than thou and questing for the overlord's new world order, they formed ranks and went out into the opportune land with goofy, hayseed, born-again grins on their smug lips, peeling the casualties off the heating grates. Howdy, howdy, let me introduce myself, reaching out the caring hand, exhorting the gentle words the terminally ill. Though you are not of our religion, fear not, your soul is in our care. You will not only find life according to our precepts, but through our dogma, we shall resurrect your spirit and dictate to you the terms by which you may die, and your rewards thereafter in a place unknown to you, but confidently in our charge. Gadabouts, sweeping up the pains of the world and inviting them into the rectory for donuts and coffee with cutesy, condescending, heartless messages on placemats, coffee mugs, bumper stickers, and billboards. In 1894 AD, God's proving ground, the earth, was once again turned
Divine proving ground. In praise of the newest Pope Leo, America's first real astronaut. In praise of Franklin Graham, Jerry Falwell Jr., Oral Roberts, and the Reverend Jim Jones, the living and the dead. In praise of Marshall Applewhite, riding on the comet of Heaven's Gate, the dead, riding the dead. In praise of King Donald the Last, crossroads for the living and the dead. In praise of Neanderthal man, of thee I sing. In 1894 AD, God's proving ground, the earth, was once again turned into one gigantic concentration camp. Evidently, since certain new philosophical and scientific ideas had crept into the parlor, intent on seduction of the innocent, to nip in the bud the human potential for infidelity and get all those batting and winking eyes back on him where they belonged, just in case we had a notion to stray or pervert ourselves irredeemably as God, again proving himself the good and merciful, watched over us, allowing Satan, his chief adversary and ironically taskmaster, warden of the prison, lousy apartment manager refusing to exterminate the roaches and rats, to exterminate 13 million souls who had been incarnated into human flesh in a worldwide pandemic of Black Death. And here, all along, we thought that card had been put back up his sleeve of the Dark Ages, carried not by demons as common religious deliberation had conceived of it, but by a small organism hosted inside a flea that drilled like a thirsty, teeny oil man into the substrata of human beings and sucked off their blood, whereupon routing that organism into human veins and brains, infants, children, adolescents, mature adults, all were fantastically susceptible hosts. And out from steaming black pustules rupturing volcanically through their skin, shrieked the demented face of death himself, and the visage of death looked nearly identical to the image of God. Must be the devil. Must be the devil. Can't be no flea. Can't be no God. No, sir. A very incomplete list of the highlights of religious compassion, interaction, and indoctrination might read as follows. The legacy of cruelty by human invention reached one zenith during the Inquisition, when for the sake of extracting confessions of heresy and conspiracy with Luciferic legions, fingers were placed in clamps and tightened until blood spurted and bone crushed. Iron tortured chairs with seats of red-hot nails goosed the curiously unfaithful. Iron boots crushed shin bones to allay their doubt about the power of God. Starving rats placed in boxes, placed over victims' heads, tongues cut out, eyes gouged, routine castrations, limbs dislocated on the rack, the wheel, victims torn to pieces, drawn and quartered with handsome snorting steeds, machines and instruments sprinkled with holy water. Pungent smoke fills the nostrils, spicy odors water the mouth, skin crackles, bristles, sizzles, and pops. Burnt flesh runs down the stake. If you lived, you were forgiven of all crimes where, upon the proving ground, you had proven your innocence. And if you died, it confirmed all charges of guilt in the name of the crucifix, not the crucified. Millions upon millions, popes and choir boys, monks, priests, unwed nuns bearing new holiness into the world, then setting it adrift in the orphanages of silent disinheritance. Whose bastard am I? Why, thou art the Lord's. Soldiers, physicians, emperors, stable girls, sisters, papa's sons and daughters, Auntie M, the gardener, the milkmaid, the postman, the knight, the knave, the court jester, the messenger, the lord, the lady, the altruist, the insolent, the bedeviled, the lame, the tardy, the fool killer, the foolhardy, Grendel and the butler ripping off their clothes. These naked apes. The sweet garden of earthly delights. Oh, daisy chain of divine love, proving again and again and again the divinity of going forth and repopulating the earth in the midst of the unfathomable cataclysms, sacred and profane. We are so very humble, giving thanks, followed by tithes, of course, that we are civilized and no longer jousting and whooping among bloodthirsty savages, where, at best, the only reasonable outcome for our souls could be eternal separation, but not necessarily punishment from the holiness of God. Amen. During the Crusades, armed makeshift armies of vigilantes at the calling of Providence personally set about to prove God's love by routing God's wrath on infidels who had captured the Holy Land. The Christian Crusaders of Peter the Hermit moved through Hungary, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria on their way to fight Muslims, ransacking the cities in their paths. On a divinely inspired mission, badly in need of sustenance, they faithfully slaughtered 4,000 Christian residents of Zemun, Yugoslavia in one of their pillages, then turned their pitchforks, battle axes, and torches upon rumored opposition in Belgrade, a ways down the road. But rumored or no, God's command was clear. As bishops escorted them to bless their atrocities, advancing legions carried the heads of decapitated Muslims as trophies. Then the Crusaders catapulted the heads over the walls of surrounding cities, or, lacking the machinery of joy and relying on the old heave-ho, simply impaled them on stakes within eyeshot of the defenders to torment and demoralize their throngs. 300 heads, 500 heads, 1,000. Glorious and joyful spectacle, according to one priest. However, Muslim defenders with any spine would decapitate Christian residents within the walls and catapult their heads back out of the stronghold as a requited sentiment to answer the besieging forces, as one joyous spectacle surely breeds ensuing others with great glee. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Across the big pond around the same time, believing the sun god needed sustenance to rise, Central and South American Indian priests sacrificed as many as 20,000 victims a year by cutting out their hearts as blood offerings. Some years, they had bumper crops. Why stop if you have a surplus? During the dedication of the Aztec temple in Tenochtitlan, circa 1487, squads of priests labored 4 days, sacrificing 20,000 prisoners. Dancing virgins were seized and decapitated for the pleasure of the maize goddess, as incantating priests lurked about, wearing their skins, ready to grab the next young and lovely honorees. While in the late 1500s, back over on the other side, out of the war zone, but certainly not out of divinely inspired dedication, singing psalms and scolding heretics, Protestant and Catholic clergymen united under the banner of holy, perfect will to drown and bury alive Anabaptists whom they had determined had trod down the path of error and were unwilling to place their foot back upon the true way. Anabaptist leaders were tortured to death with red-hot pincers, their bodies hung in iron cages from church steeples, remaining there for years as grim reminders of the fruits of deviation from customary doctrine. From 1618 to 1648, the 30 Years' War between Catholics and Protestants left Central Europe in desolation and despair. The catastrophic death toll from battle in Germany alone dropped its population from 18 million to 4 million. Mass starvation and disease followed, with no Christian charity offered or given from either side to alleviate the monumental suffering. The spurts of slaughter from the coursing hatred carried millennia after millennia in the psychic blood between Muslims, Christians, and Jews in the Mideast Holy Land has returned with, of course, a vengeance, and has now gone on for decades, since 1948, when Jews returned to reclaim the land that was, in quotes, rightfully theirs. Palestinians who had once occupied the same tract of holy dirt and sacred dust were driven into half-civilized cages under the pretense of sorting out for God the wheat from the chaff and the goats from the sheep, all images of the subhuman with no apparent universal rights. The 2,000-year-old history of the Jew as villain by all Christian sects culminated during the Holocaust, when 6 or so million perished. Christian anti-Semitism, anti-Judaism created attitudes which permitted the Nazis their extermination theology. In the death camps, Christmas wreaths were hung over stacks of emaciated Jewish bodies, as one might place a cheery wreath of peace and goodwill toward all men in a slaughterhouse. Historically, the Catholic Church alone published over 100 official documents concerning the perverse demonology of the Jews. Between 1915 and 1920, an estimated 600,000 Armenians and 2.5 million Muslims died in religious quarrels, fighting their war of mutual genocide. The death toll from Hindu-Muslim combat during the partitioning of Pakistan and India by the British in 1947 reached 1 million. That was just the opening curtain. Throughout the decades, the ensuing casualties from religiously precipitated economic, social, and political violence rise fervently to separate unequal heavens. Murders by strangulation from an East Indian religious sect, the Thuggees, was estimated as high as 2 million victims. Thuggee theology held that the destroyer God works slower than the creator God, thus needing help in keeping the universe in perfect harmonious balance. At a trial in 1840, one Thuggee was accused of garroting by his hand alone 931 hapless victims. Where was the one true God to prevent these throttlings? Strolling through the indignant, killing fields of bliss and self-righteousness on his way to the proving grounds of that which is human and that which is not. Escorted by cynical old witch doctors deploring science, deploring rational thought and law and structure, yet voracious for the next voodoo mind expansion, dangled chicken heads out of their loincloths while tightening their rosary beads and silk Bible hook bookmarks around the beads and heads and testicles of their enemies, and all the while proclaiming their entitlement as the sole messengers and executioners of God's love. Today, one group is ordered to reopen 3 mass graves containing over 700 bodies. The high priest wants to hear singing while we dig. The disinterred bodies lie piled in a heap. We are to pull out the bodies and cart them to the bonfire. where we will send the sweet smoke of their suffering aloft into the nostrils of our only salvation, our essence and reason for being. Two men with a carved leg bone hook stand at the grave's rim. Three men with another hook plunge down in amongst the bodies. The hook is dug into a corpse. From on top come great tugs. The hook sinks deeper into your son, your wife, your mother, your brother. In this advanced stage of decay, the corpse breaks in two. Threats are shouted down on us like fiery rain. They are the brimstone that we serve to achieve eternal life. Carriers toss hands and heads and legs onto the wood branches of the pallets, weaving body parts together so they don't slide off. We rub our hands in sand, for the handles become slippery from the decayed flesh that oozes through our fingers. But not all are dead. Some of the bodies cry out when tossed into the fire pit. Among all that decay, they had managed to survive. In all the horror and madness, one cannot make certain that everyone is dead. The high priest dispatches his finishers, those who will ensure that none remain alive, for we cannot risk the wrath of our beloved. He searches with his eyes while they comb the ground at the bottom of the pit on their hands and knees, machetes and clubs in hand, picking up each bone or strand of hair, silencing each groaning voice, making sure not a trace of evidence remains disclosed, ensuring that the fire above will remain pure and that nothing remains undevoured by its sacred flame. We of the Ashen Death Brigade, heralds of the brave new order of a brave new mankind, believe upon the souls of our mothers that this war, this last war, its gas chambers, crematoriums, and funeral pyres are a gift from God Himself. And we shall quench our thirst for righteousness and salvation by drinking the flames and inhaling the burning smoke of its holy redemption.
Wow. Thank you for joining in live, Michael Annis. That was an amazing presentation. What a grim story. Ugh.
When religion gets a hold of governments, you can bet that atrocities will be committed.
Frightening. Really.
Well, Chuck, it's good to be back on the New American Dream.
I'm glad to have you here on the New American Dream.
Yeah. So we have a couple of radio plays coming up. I think the first one is going to be Upon a Square Meter of Earth, and it will be starring Aaliyah Jasper, Estelia C.W., and myself. And then we have another one coming up that we've worked on for a long time, which is called Echo Echo. Mm-hmm. It is an evolution from a series that I've been working on with a great American artist, Henry Avedon, on the Miserere series. It grew out of that series of collaboration of art and literature. And I think it will be possibly toward the end of summer, maybe the first part of in fall. It is, again, starring Aaliyah Jasper, Astelia C.W., Marcus If. I will be present as a tertiary figure within the play, and Mary Ann Amari will be there. So it's been 9 months or more in the making, a lot of rehearsals, a lot of dedication, and I think that it's going to be a very superior piece for the New American Dream Theater. I'm just hoping that we get it recorded correctly. We'll be doing that on the that's not a comment. I wasn't slinging an arrow, Chuck. No, we're going to do it independent. We're going to bring it in with music, and hopefully we're going to have some really fine background music by an incredible composer and musician, Andrew Cooper, who lives in Maryland. So we're really looking forward to the whole production. It's going to be a formal play.
All right. I'm so excited that you are introducing these plays on the New American Dream. I'm always looking for new things to do here on the show, and this is truly a wonderful new departure, a growth from your monthly segments, and I can't thank you enough for doing it here.
Oh yeah, this is my first choice for where to do it. We'll be making a recording though and sending it out, but we'll say, first done on the New American Dream Theater. So number 3, I even have a number 3 in line.
Oh,
it's called The Understudy. It was written by a fellow named Ronald Tavel, who has passed away. I published it in, I think, 92, 93, somewhere in there. I was down at Andre Kudrescu's home in New Orleans, spending some time with him at Mardi Gras, and Ronald happened to be there. Ronald was Andy Warhol's primary scriptwriter. And so this was an unpublished play, and as I was leaving to go across the Florida Panhandle to the Gulf, he came running out the door, and he said, Michael, you've got to look at this. You have to look at this. You've got to look at this play. Nobody has ever done this. Nobody has ever published this play. I want you to look at it. And I promised him that I would. And it just absolutely took my head off. It was an amazing work. Really a truly dramatic challenge, I would call it, for anybody who has heart and soul and a mind left. So that one I'm looking forward to. I'm going to give it a little spin. And
has that one been performed other places, or
no?
Only
it's only been published. I published it. I was the first to publish it. As far as I know, it's never been performed.
Huh.
So I don't think you need to have any anxiety about rights or anything like that, because it states very clearly. It states very clearly, Chuck, and I do have the rights to that piece as well.
Okay.
And besides, if you think about it, I mean, I've never heard of it performed. It's called The Understudy. Never heard of it performed, but it certainly deserves performance.
It sure, sounds like it.
Yeah, it's harrowing, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you very much, Michael, for joining me tonight. And this was kind of fun having you step in the middle of the recorded and give us an updated version. Uh, that was a good idea you had, and I think it worked really well.
Great.
So,
I'm really looking forward to hearing it. I hope
okay.
I'll be able to hear it, Chuck.
You'll be able to hear it.
Okay, great.
All
It's out
right.
there somewhere. I know it's got to be out there somewhere.
That's right. I hate it when things just end up in the ether, right?
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks again. Really appreciate
We can always look for it in a Chinese weather balloon.
it. All right then. So let me see if I can figure out how to contact our next guest of the evening, Karen Kwiatkowski. She should be joining us anytime here. As soon as I figure out the right messaging. It's pretty crazy. I have all these different ways of talking to different people, and then I have to keep track of, let's see, is this one on Messenger? Is it on Messages? Is it on WhatsApp? Is it on blah, blah, blah? Anyway, I found Karen Kwiatkowski, and I'm going to ask her to join this show right now.
Okay. See you next month.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, folks. This Karen Kwiatkowski, who will be joining us very soon, is a very interesting guest. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force and was president of the Pentagon on 9/11, but that's not her claim to fame. She's for office in Virginia. She's a really interesting person, and here she is. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be here again, and with this new system also. But yeah, so I just got back a couple days ago from a conference on the revisionist history of war at the Mises Institute down in Auburn, Alabama. So I was closer to you when I was in Auburn than I am now. But anyway, they had a lot of great speakers, and one of them, one of the speakers spoke about Israel and the what's going on in Gaza, and just basically issues of how Israel's storyline, their propaganda line, or what they want you to think about Israel is one thing, and what really is a different thing. And her name is Alana Mercer, and she gave a wonderful, wonderful talk, but her talk was unable to be loaded with all the other talks from the Mises Institute on YouTube. Her talk is available on Rumble, on the Mises Institute's Rumble page. It's interesting because I listened to her talk, and I've read a lot of her work, and she's I guess you could say a Jewish dissident of the Zionist experiment that's going on in Israel, and has been for a long time. And I think that experiment is an experiment that is pretty much gone sour. They are, it's unfortunate, not just for the Palestinians, which is a crime and a tragedy, what has happened to them, but Israel itself is ruining every good thing that Israel ever had in, through behavior, because they've lost almost all their friends except the United States. But we're not a very good friend. I mean, our government, we say, oh, well, AIPAC owns Congress. Yes, that is pretty much true. I mean, it's mostly true. Certainly in the Trump administration, all presidents are heavily influenced and do the bidding of Israel, at least since at least 1963. There's no doubt about that. But we look at Trump specifically, and we go, well, my goodness, a good much of his campaign was paid for by Mrs. Edelman, and he's a huge supporter of Netanyahu. He says long friendship, son-in-law, daughter, very much I think, support the Zionist cause. Most of his friends are Zionists. His Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is a Zionist. Most of his appointments are Zionist. So you could say, well, he's a good friend of Israel, but America is never really a good friend of Israel because we change too often, which is why I think AIPAC has to work so terribly, terribly hard to maintain control of both parties. And not just at the federal level, but they pay a great deal of attention to the elections at the state level as well. And I think we might have talked even a month ago about the issue going on in Texas, where a small town, protested and voted in a town council, or had a vote that they were considering to make. I don't know what happened to the vote, but they were considering petitioning Austin, the capital of Texas, to no longer send their tax dollars to Israel, because the state was buying, the Secretary of State of Texas was purchasing Israeli bonds, which is another way. We say, oh, well, we give $4 billion a year to Israel, plus, that's defense and aid, and then we give them other money, and then we give bump ups whenever they're in a war, which is constantly. But beyond that, the states themselves buy and are encouraged and solicited to buy Israeli bonds. And you could say, well, what's that? Well, it's like an Israeli war bond, like they used to sell American war bonds in World War II. But Israel's constantly at war because they are surrounded by enemies. They're a victim state, surrounded by enemies. But if you sit back and look at their behavior, you can see that whether they're victims or not, the idea that they're surrounded by enemies it's not going to change. Their behavior has been such that they do not engender thoughts of kindness amongst their neighbors. They don't engender thoughts of charity amongst their neighbors. Nobody trusts them as well. They shouldn't. I mean, think about Syria, Turkey, Israel, and America. We were all, United States, we were behind been pushing it for years, sanctions, supporting Al-Qaeda and other organizations to do anything that we could to get rid of Assad. And finally, Assad fell. And a number of countries were involved in that. I think, I'm not sure who paid off the Syrian army, but they clearly received funding to basically step away. And they did step away, and now a former basically Al-Qaeda type person, one who had once been on our payroll and once and again, but in between, when we didn't like him, he had a $10 million bounty on his head. At the same time he had the bounty on his head, we still met with him at the highest levels, at the State Department level, and then later, sorry, we forgot, we got to take that off. So that's how serious, or I should say unserious, the bounty was. But anyway, Syria, of course, became a failed state overnight. I mean, and that's fine. And the very first thing Israel did was to, completely destroy all of the offensive and defensive military capability. They bombed the port, the Navy, every army depot, every weapons stash, every bit of air power that Syria could bring to bear was completely destroyed. Now, Israel, United States, and Turkey and others worked with the guy running Syria now and his small group. They encouraged him to take over the state and do your thing, Well, when you encourage somebody and you assist them in conducting a coup or taking over a country, the next thing that your friends are going to do, the last thing you expect them to do is to completely destroy your military. The military that you inherited, that you are going to form up. So the idea, of course, Israel wants no strong challengers, and everyone is Israel's enemy. Even Israel's friends are their enemy. And this is coming from Israel. So how do they expect to have peace? They don't expect to have peace. They expect to have murder. And that's what they're doing now. And of course, accelerating it. But I think we're at a finishing point to some extent. If they get Americans, and apparently they've already hired tons of these former military guys, it's a private military contractor that's going to be controlling and making food flow into Gaza. Of course, we know how many children are 48 hours from starvation, how many have already died of actual sheer starvation. People in this country if we see somebody starve their animal to death, they don't feed their dog, they starve their cats to death. When we see that, we are horrified in this country. If someone starves to death, much less their child, right? We see this and we go, oh, that's a crime. Put them in jail. Well, the people running the government of Israel and many of the people in the army, the IDF, deserve to be in jail. There's just no way around it. They deserve to be in jail. There should be no double standards, but there is a double standard. And but bottom line is they can't change. Israel has a very difficult time. They have gone down a tunnel. I hate to use the word tunnel because, they're obsessed with tunnels, but they've gone down a tunnel of sorts, and they cannot reverse and they cannot turn around, and they're stuck. And everybody on the planet despises Israel. The Don't Invest in Israel movement, the BDS movement, is massive. The money that flows into Israel, even from outside Jews who send their money and support Israel, the popularity of Zionism globally is crashing. It's crashing. So who's left? Well, it's the 7 million or so that are loving the killing, and it's just not working. It's not working. And Israel's leaders, certainly Netanyahu, who's he's a personal mess, and this is all really about Netanyahu, the master narcissist. But even with a different leader, even with Netanyahu's replacement, where are they pulling him from? They're all 97%. This is one of the recent statistics that's really shocking. 97% of Israelis in Israel surveyed want to complete the Gaza decimation operation. They want the Gazans gone. They want to take that land over and populate it for themselves. And so that's 3% that don't. No matter what leader they get after Netanyahu, what are they drawing from? They're drawing from a 97% base of people that want to kill all their neighbors. And guess what? This is a dead end, a literal dead end. It won't work. And we've seen already that, of course, there are still Palestinians standing, and they still have spirit, and people are respecting that. People around the world respect that. So, and they don't respect Israel. So it's a big problem. But anyway, we've talked about all this before. Still going on. I hope it gets better. But my friend at this conference, he spoke of these things with probably, it's all backed up, and it wasn't overly mean. I didn't feel that it was out of bounds. I've said worse myself in various forums, and yet she is blackballed. She is shut down, throttled, whatever you want to say. So she's conducting that kind of speech that may not be conducted. And this is a sad thing for our country, sad thing for the world, and it has to stop. And I'm hoping that, what we're doing here, what you're doing, what so many other people are doing at a small level, really, is going to keep free speech alive, because we're in great danger of it being murdered. And it's not just about Israel. Look at how Trump is doing with the universities. Look at what he's doing with and I say with the illegal aliens, with the lack of due process in some cases. You can argue legally. They can say, well, the guy committed a crime, the judge said he has to go, whatever. But
they don't even know what habeas corpus is.
No, they don't know, and they don't care. And all of these, the due process, the habeas corpus, the ideas that people, not just citizens, but people have natural rights. All of this is aimed at preventing a king, preventing an evil king, preventing a tyrant, preventing a tyranny. And we aren't even paying attention to what's happening in our own country. And I'm not saying Trump as a person is a tyrant. I'm saying almost anybody in that office can become one very easily. The power Trump is exercising, if Biden, whoever was running the country under Biden, they were also exercising similar power. And that's frightening. That ought to be frightening to people, that the state can ignore the very foundational rules in the Constitution that they have. So anyway, that's very frustrating. So anyway, I guess the topic then, I would say, for what we're talking about is really liberty and free speech. And
Yeah.
You know, there's the two big First and Second Amendments. You know, people are like, oh, Second Amendment have their guns, and I'm all for that. Quite frankly, I don't think the government should tell me what I can and cannot own, and I don't care if it's a gun or a pet or anything else. And I don't appreciate the government telling me what I can have or what kind of tools that I can use. You know, I don't like that. But the free speech one, we all exercise, we all engage in that sphere. You know, so many people, like, especially for those who oppose guns or have they don't feel that we should have so many, it's not necessary. You know, mainly it's because they themselves don't, and they don't participate in that sphere. It's not their thing, and I get it. You know, just like if you don't fish, you don't really care about fishing, right? Because you don't fish. Why does anybody need a fishing pole? I don't fish. I don't use a fishing pole. So that's one thing. But free speech unites all of us, because every one of us benefits from this concept that the First Amendment shapes and says the government shall make no laws to abridge, to change, to impact us. And it's not just our speech, it's our expression, it's our mobility, it's if we will gather, how we gather, where we gather, what we do when we're gathering. Maybe we're worshiping. You can't touch that. So, but we're not taking that seriously, and it is being abridged. And technology is allowing the state, our government, but certainly look at the European governments, they're even worse. China has mastered the art of controlling the dialogue that goes on, controlling the conversation in the country. And technology helps them do that. So I don't know. I think we have to beat them with their own game. We have to beat them with the technology, but it's a scary time, really. And so many people aren't paying close attention to those that are silenced. And I think maybe it's not just our friends. It's not just Ilana Mercer, my friend, who I've read her stuff for years. She's a wonderful writer, a great logical thinker. But she's shut down. So and then we have the people that are shut down, the people that are inconvenient, the Palestinians and Gazans, for one. They've proved to be inconvenient to what the state of Israel wants. So what do? Well, they just kill them and murder them and shut them down and starve them and wipe them from the face of the earth. That's their solution. Well, we say, well, that's over there. That's somebody else's problem. And it is to some extent. Of course, we're paying for the bombs, so it's our problem too. But
yeah,
shut people down and wipe them off the face of the earth and make them irrelevant through silencing them, just simply silencing them. And we think, well, that's not a bad thing. That's not a crime. It's not a terrible thing. Yeah, it is. First Amendment, we need to use it and we need to stand up for it. And we need to exercise it, I think. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And it's going to require everybody to kind of put their toe in the water of what free speech and free assembly and all of that means, because our government today, just in this country, we don't have genocide here, even though we're paying for the one in Gaza, but we're not really seeing that here. But what are we seeing? We're seeing not just people silenced, but inconvenient people pushed out, right? I mean, and considered if it's immigrants or if it's just students who say things, students who come here for an education, but say things that somebody in the government doesn't like. I mean, seriously, our founding fathers, the people that decided they didn't want to be a part of the British Empire anymore, my God, they would look at us and shake their heads. They would look at us and just shake their heads. It's a lost cause. You people don't have the slightest clue as to what's worth fighting for. I think that's what they would say to us. And it's a shame. So we're going to have to wake up and we're going to have to exercise our freedom, or we're not going to have any.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that one of my main motivations in doing this show is to exercise my right of free speech and to encourage it in all of my guests. And because exercising the right is how you protect it.
That's right. I agree. And it's funny that I'm like, in my 60s, and I have to I have to rethink my assumptions, about the Constitution, about those protections. We say, oh, well, we live in America, it's the freest country on the planet. No, it's not. It hasn't been for quite a long time, but we're told these things, and if we don't actually rationalize them and see if that matches with our lived reality, and if the evidence supports that, are we the freest country on the planet? Does the evidence support that? If it doesn't, then we're being lied to. And we still have a constitution. We still have a framework that emphasizes individual liberty. Well, take it. We need to take it. And I think people are going to have to come to that point, and they will. They are coming to that point increasingly. But we are a lot of people that talk to me about, well, the government's going to pot. Our government may fail. What will happen? Who will? I when I was in the military, and even afterwards, I'd have people say, well, don't you think the military might take over if it gets really bad? They'll just take over and fix everything. And of course, they won't. And if they did, they would be exactly like and worse of what we thought, or what they thought they were fixing. So it has to be each individual, family, community as seizing their liberty and exercising it every day and valuing it, and not believing what you're told. Oh, well, you are the most luckiest, freest, citizen on the planet because we have a constitution. Well, we have a constitution, but nobody follows it. Our government ignores it. Just be straight about that. So, but we're told all these things, and it feels very good to be told these things. It feels good. But I'll tell you what we are finding, and you'll read stories about this and you see it. A lot of people who have, and even retired people who have left the United States and gone to another country. There's a lot of popular destinations that people are really just, leaving the United States permanently. And they go, oh my God, life is so good where I'm at. And it could be any place. I mean, there's a lot of places that they go and they go, I did not realize how happy and free I could be, and how better my life is. I mean, these kinds of reports are all around, and they've been like that. There's been a slow it's increasing in pace, people leaving the country. And what they're finding is, guess what? We were told something by our government that wasn't true. Well, of course, this is the story of all stories throughout all time, right? The government or the kings or whoever's in charge, they tend to lie to you periodically, sometimes all the time. But we are dealing with that now. And I like a lot of things Trump is saying. He says he wants peace. Well, I want peace. I agree with that.
Really?
I'm not going to argue with that. But, we have to be real. And the state, the government, it's not delivering the goods. And until we demand that it either deliver liberty and peace or get out of the way, these are going to be the two options. And we're not ready as a people. Americans are not ready as a people to do that. And I wonder if in the aftermath of what Israel has done to Gaza, and we've paid for that, of course, don't ever forget, American taxpayers paid every penny of that. And we'll probably end up paying to rebuild it for Israel if that's what happens. But I hope maybe as the aftermath of this, because I do think it's going to stop soon, and then we're going to see the real damage and we're going to hear the real stories, that maybe people will think differently. Because many people in this country, not all of them, but a lot of people in this country feel that Israel is our best ally, and they're the country most aligned with our values, which of course they are not, but they believe that. And so as we learn more about what they did and what they have done, and certainly the disaster and the tragedy of Gaza, which we are going to hear more about, there's American professional military guys, contractors from the United States who are regular guys who come from the Midwest and the South and the West and all over the place. And they're going to send pictures back to their wives and families. And they go, oh my God, this is what I'm seeing. I cannot believe anything could have happened like this. Why did this happen? And then they're going to say, and you know what? We paid for that. You paid for that. You worked extra hours to pay taxes so that you could fund this. And I think maybe that will help all of us see these governments for what they really are. And then when they lie, we'll call them out immediately instead of waiting 10 or 20 years to realize it. So that's the thing I hope will happen. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I hope so. But, like you say, the technology lets them lie to us so well.
it does. It does.
They can really spin a tale, and it's often hard to tell where the truth starts and the lie ends.
It's true. It's so true. And we have to become, well, when people first had AOL, that was like AOL email, and you occasionally will see people in AOL. Yeah. But we learned as we use technology as users, we learned things like, well, you could be scammed, right? That's not all emails are from the person that they say they are. We learn these things. And what we have to do is we have to learn that lesson, not just for technology, and certainly AI. What a joke. What a joke. I mean, it's not a joke. It's powerful. But I read an article just the other day, and they said some reporter for a major newspaper had used AI to research his work. And he said, I forgot to edit it. And he sent it in the way AI had done it. And it was filled with lies. It was filled with references to books and professors at universities, none of which existed. I mean, the professors were made up names. The papers that they wrote were made up. The university activity was all fantasy. So, and that was a product of one of the major chat GTP, I think. And it was, but this is where AI is at. It lies with the same ease as it might present the truth. And I think we can learn from this, because our government also lies with the same ease that it would tell the truth. And it's hard to distinguish it. So,
indeed.
But yeah, we just have to keep up the fight. But, I'll tell you, too, even though our government borrows quite a bit and they never intend to pay it back, and it's debt spending and all this, you can debate it, but they do take money from the people. And they take that money and they spend it on their pet projects. They spend it on lying to us. They spend it on manipulating us. They don't spend most of it. They spend very little of it actually helping anybody. Certainly not helping Americans. So, we should be a little bit, at some point, I think people will stop. We'll stop paying the taxes that they pay. Now, we already have the example of the major corporations who already stopped paying the taxes in many cases. Right. But yeah, I mean, people, the average person just needs to say, I'm disconnecting from this government because this government has disconnected from me. And we cannot assume, well, I've been told in high school, in my high school book, it said, I studied American government, and it said then the government works for the people. Does it?
Right.
I mean, how can we say that? Where's your evidence that it does that? Because we are currently funding a genocide. And it's a genocide that probably 90% of the population opposes of this country. Yeah. And it hasn't had one damn bit of influence on how much money we're giving to Israel right now. And it's not just money. We're giving them literally bombs and literal chemicals, to use on this population, to starve them down and move them around and kill them and make them die, including the children, because for the Israelis, the children are just as bad. They actually get more points killing a child because that stops the whole life of reproduction of that child. We can prevent a whole generation of Palestinians if we kill the women and children. And this is talked, you think, oh, well, Karen's just being a nutcase. She's just making this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up. You can read it. If you could read Hebrew, I've read translations of Hebrew, but you can read, you go to Israel, this is how they talk. This is how they talk. This is how some of the rabbis talk. Kill the children. That's a better for our cause, because we will eliminate these people. So, if Americans don't get that, they need to get that. We're told that, Israel is defending themselves. Well, they're not. They're doing a land grab and a genocide for their own Zionist purposes, and they talk about it freely in Israel. And if we talk about it, and if Ilana Mercer talks about it, writes about it, she's blackballed.
We talk about it, we're anti-Semitic.
Yeah, we just anti-Semitic. We will be targeted. We will be shut down. I mean, if they can do it now, if they can, if they can figure out how to do it. And YouTube has done a very good job. Who owns YouTube? Is it Google? I can't remember who owns YouTube, but and we're on a Google Talk right now. So Google, hi Google, how you doing? Because YouTube, YouTube is very specific about what they will have on what they will allow. They check content and they refuse it. And a lot of stuff that is free to get around the world and inside of Israel proper, free to talk about, free to video, free to share. A lot of that is eliminated from American YouTube because they don't want Americans to feel bad that we are conducting with Israel a genocide. Well, sorry. The truth is we need to wake up to it. And if the government can do that to another country, they say, oh, well, it's for a good cause. We love Israel, so it's for a good cause. Well, if they can do it to Gaza, they can do it to any other place closer to home, including inside our border. And don't think they won't, because we did it in World War II without all the technology. What did they do? They put Americans in camps because they were disfavored during the war. Germans and Japanese, disfavored, put them in camps, isolated them. And you know what? If it had gotten really bad, or maybe something, we were starting to lose the war, who's to say that we wouldn't have massacred those people? Who's to say we wouldn't, out of anger or punishment, or use them as hostages? Of course, this is what governments do. So wake up. If they'll do it to Gaza, they'll do it to any place, and they'll do it to us. Half the people in this country do not pay any taxes, and the reason they don't pay taxes, they don't make enough money to pay taxes. That's called, we used to have a middle class. We don't really have much of a middle class anymore. We have a very small middle class. 50% of people don't pay taxes. Technically, they don't pay it because they don't make enough. Technically, they are in poverty. Okay. Well, the Gazans were in poverty. Who do you think states go after? They don't go after the rich. They go after the poor. So quite frankly, think about it. Be afraid. I'm normally very positive. Well, actually, maybe I'm not positive, but we should be afraid. We should think about these things. We could be at risk to the same type of behavior that we are helping Israel do in Gaza. If we don't, and also, the whole world condemned it at the UN, and a big fat nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. They didn't stop it. They didn't slow it down. They actually got worse. So don't think the rest of the world would come to our aid if they decided, well, we got a little problem with some poor people who don't do what we think they should do. Well, let's hurt them in a small area and chase them back and forth and shoot them, bomb them, destroy their homes, and starve them to death. Well, they did it once. It seemed to work pretty good. So are they going to, we really need to think about it. Need to think about it, and we need to stop it because it's not acceptable at all.
It is. Exactly. Karen, thank you so much for being with me. This was actually turned out to be a pre-record because I wasn't able to get on the station tonight, but I'm going to put it up in the archives, and I might put it up on YouTube too. Anyway,
good luck with it.
I'm kind of doing a little new thing.
I like
those up other places.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I like what you're doing, and the more you can get it out there accessible, it's great. People are looking for real people to talk to and real people to listen to. They really are looking for that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because if people don't start listening to real people and talking and listening to each other, and we aren't going to get out of this very well.
That's right. I agree. Well, thank you for what you're doing.
All right. Thank you for all that you do. All right.
Okay. We'll see you
next month. All right.
Yeah. All righty.
Good night.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, good night, everyone. Thank you for joining me or almost joining me tonight. Thanks for listening to the recording, because that's probably the only way anybody else is going to actually see it. It has been my pleasure to be with you tonight on the new American Dream Radio show. And I'm sure Revolution Radio is going to be back to normal real soon. Don't forget that they are a listener-supported station, so let them know that you care, and well, show them some love. I subscribe on Patreon, so there are a lot of ways that you can help the station out. And like I say, it's all listener-supported, so they do need your help. All right. Thanks again, and good night.